Hi, friends. I am 2 weeks late sending y'all a video for Sundays when we are not meeting. Thank you to Cindy Scoppy for asking me where they were. So, I want to know, where have you been? Lots of us have gone places already for summer since school is out, and the rest of us, if we haven't already gone, are probably going somewhere in the future. I would love for us to still keep in touch through the month of June and all of July. And I think it would be great fun if you chose a friend at church and you looked up their address. And when you were gone out of town on vacation or maybe visiting family, if you sent them a postcard to let them know where you are. We are going to look at two Bible passages in this short video that talk about going places. All right? I don't know if you know, but if you are really curious about what the Bible readings in Mass are going to be on a certain Sunday, you can look it up on the computer, or you can look it up on last week's Ordo usually and know what are the four readings going to be. So I have looked up, today is Saturday when I'm making this, I have already looked up to see what is going to be read in Mass tomorrow if I go at 8 or at 10:30. Now we know that the four readings include something from the Old Testament, something from the New Testament in the Gospels. That's when Jesus was living here on earth in bodily form. A psalm, and also something from the letters that are included in the New Testament. I want us to look at the Old Testament lesson and the Gospel. All right? But first, if you are watching and you are like, I'm bored already, I want you to do this with me. Everybody do this, do this, do this. Everybody do this just like me. Everybody do this, do this, do this. Everybody do this just like me. I also challenge you, get your adults to play you a little game of Simon Says. Because in the Bible, scriptures we're going to look at today talks about going places, and it talks about doing what God says to do. So quickly, the Old Testament lesson is from the small book in the Bible called Genesis, which means beginning, and it starts the Bible. And it is from chapter 12. Now we need to remember that when the Bible was first written, it was not written in chapters and verses, but that helps us to find the place that we're going to read together. And tomorrow in Mass, we are going to hear Genesis chapter 12, and it is when the Lord himself talks to a very old man named Abram. We have talked about Abram before in Sunday school. We talked a lot about him. And you may remember that God tells the old man Abram, who is living in a place where he probably has a fair amount of things. We think he was pretty rich, all right? But God says to him, go and leave your country and your kindred, your family, and your father's house, and go to the land where I will show you. So, I want us to think about that. God asked an old man to leave all his stuff, except what he could gather up, and go to a place he didn't even know where it was yet. the amazing thing is Abram, who is later called Abraham, obeys God. I wonder why. I wonder why Abraham could hear the voice of God. I wonder why Abraham decided to do what God told him to do. Who do you obey, and why do you obey them? Way farther along in the Bible, when we go to the New Testament, and Jesus has been born into the world as a baby and has grown up, and he is at least 30 years old, maybe 31 or so. He starts doing what God had planned for him to do when God sent him to live on the earth. And he knows that it's going to take some friends for him to finish doing the things that God wanted him to do. And so we know that he chooses 12 men. We're going to later call them disciples. But the gospel reading for tomorrow, or if you're watching this today, is from Matthew chapter 9. Matthew. Now, the Gospels are named for people who wrote them. So the Gospel of Matthew, I believe, would be written by Matthew. And Matthew's actually going to be in this story, which I think is kind of cool. Jesus had not chosen all 12 of his disciple friends yet. And the ones he had chosen, two sets of brothers were fishermen. It was surprising that Jesus chose the men that he chose, because usually teachers of the scriptures, which is what Jesus was going to be, a new sort of rabbi, they choose people who, are gone to a lot of school, kind of smart, thinking sort of people. Jesus had already chosen some fishermen, and now he goes and chooses a man called Matthew, who is a tax collector. Now, we pay taxes to the government, but we don't have a person that comes around and collects our taxes. But that's how they did it back then. And a lot of times the tax collectors were known for taking at least a little more than the taxes were, because they had to make a living. It was their job. But people didn't like them because sometimes they took a lot more than they should have from the people. It says, Matthew chapter 9, verse 9, as Jesus passed, he saw a man called Matthew sitting at the tax booth, and he said to him, "Follow me." And Matthew rose up and followed him. I wonder what Matthew knew about Jesus that Matthew thought Jesus was okay enough to get up and follow. He left his job. He may have left his family, and he decided to do something new with his life. He was going to follow Jesus. And I bet, just like Abraham, I bet he didn't really know exactly what it meant. This summer, when we're not together, we're going to be thinking about a couple of things. First, God is with us wherever we go. Beach, mountains, home, lake, river, desert, amusement park, summer school, doctor's office. God is with us wherever we go. And two, he also wants us to follow him or follow Jesus. How can we follow something if we don't know what they want us to do? Will you think about it with me this week? What do you know about God and about Jesus? Hmm. And what would it be like to follow Jesus? What sort of things does he say you ought to be doing? I will be there tomorrow, and I hope that some of these Sundays I will see you. Yay, 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 yay,